2020 psychic predictions. It's hard to believe that we're already almost halfway through 2020, and it feels like 100 years have passed since January 1st, 2020. For anyone who follows astrology, though, they are not surprised because there was an unusual conjunction at the beginning of January 2020, and it's a conjunction that was last seen a little more than 500 years ago. And if you go back in history, back then, of course, the United States hadn't been formed yet, but if you go back in European and world history, you'll see that that was the time of the Black Plague. And if you go back even further, all the way to the 4th century, you'll see that every pandemic and epidemic has been correlated with this unusual conjunction that took place in January 2020. So many astrologers were saying that something bad was coming at the beginning of 2020. They didn't know what it was, but they knew that it was something foreboding. And they were correct. So what's in store for the rest of the year? So we're now in June of 2020, and July and August, it looks like we're going to get a little bit of a reprieve from the pandemic, and that life will turn back to semi-normal as it can be under the circumstances. Unfortunately, in September, October, November, we have the return of this conjunction. We have it in September and we have it again in November. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the pandemic is coming back, but we know that this is a tricky time. So September, October, and November are going to be times that we have to be very careful to navigate. So we have this time this summer in July and August to take care of things that we have to take care of in our lives and to enjoy ourselves, and I think we should all be doing that. Now, what is this pandemic about? Let me tell you my take on this. I believe that all of us here on the planet, were left with the stewardship of our Earth. And that meant not only the environmental caretaking of our Earth, but also of all of our institutions, our government institutions, our business institutions, our social institutions. And, you know, it really even extends beyond that. It's about humanity and how we treat each other. There were so many things in this world that were stretched, you know, it's like a rubber band that stretches too far. We all had an opportunity to correct this, but nobody did it, at least not collectively. Maybe some of us were working on it ourselves individually, but there wasn't enough critical mass. There wasn't a collective effort that was massive enough to counteract some of these forces, the destruction of our Earth, the strength of our governmental and business institutions, and our judicial institutions. So, you know, there were many traditional sorts of large institutions, really is what they are, that were at a point in their evolution that was a result of many years of building their power. And they did have critical mass. And the critical mass was so powerful that it was hard for the individuals to combat that. So what happened? Well, we had a pandemic. How is the pandemic related to this? So I believe that we did not take care of some of these events that needed to be addressed, and as a result, the universe took care of it for us. This is just my opinion. You have your own beliefs and your own opinion, but this is my opinion, and I believe that the universe pressed the reset button and took us very quickly ahead in time. It's almost as if many things that were in transit, that were evolving but hadn't completely evolved yet, quickly jumped through, you know, the remaining years of evolution and took us forward into the future. And as a result, now we're starting to see the destruction of a lot of large institutions. It's not here yet in total, but some of these institutions, governmental, business, I mean, obviously businesses all over the world have been impacted by the virus, and many of them have shut, and there'll be more of them. The businesses that are remaining, many of them have had to go virtual. The ones that were already on this path, kudos to them because they were ahead of the curve, but there are many who were not and still are failing to do this. They need to go ahead and take control of their destiny and implement what they need to do to live in this virtual world. we're all going to be living in this virtual world going forward. I think for many people, it's kind of been it's been very abrupt, and many people are shocked and quite haven't found their footing yet. And for others, it's been something they've been used to already, people who worked in the tech industry and whatnot, so they're a little more used to it. But all of us are going to have to bring ourselves up to speed and become used to it, because this is the way it's going to be going forward. We're going to be in a virtual world that uh, is gratis of the internet. That doesn't mean that social institutions are going to be gone forever, but perhaps there'll be a mix of in-person and virtual interaction. So all businesses should prepare for this, and all of us individually should also prepare for this. So what else is happening? So there's also this period that we're going through, which is going to last all of 2020, will finally give us a break and some relief at the end of this year. And what does that mean? Well, we're coming into, at the very end of December, a new period, and it's going to be a time of embracing of humanity, and that's very good. However, we don't know exactly how humanity is going to respond to this, because there's a whole spectrum of results, possible results, that could happen. People could be very peace loving and concerned about their fellow citizens and be kind and be loving, and that would be the most wonderful outcome. But it could also it could be a little bit more extreme, and we don't yet know how that is. But this is going to be the result of the transfer of power from institutions to the collective, to humanity. This has been a very long time since we've had this type of environment. And again, it's going to require all of us to adapt. I think many people are going to feel more comfortable, but again, there's a lot of change coming that's already here this year, that's still unfolding, and there'll be more next year. How do you prepare yourself for this? So I think you need to be flexible. I think you need to, I have a financial background, so for those of you who are thinking about the economic aspects, I think you might need to be prepared for digital currency. We're already starting to see this. Paper money, people have not wanted to handle paper money because they're afraid that it's been contaminated, which may or may not be true. But there are a number of digital currencies now, and all these transactions that are happening with our collective bank accounts and credit cards and whatnot, everything is happening virtually. So the disappearance of paper currency is something that you might want to think about, and the rise of a digital currency. So those are all potentials. For those of you who have office space, real office space, brick and mortar, something you have to think about, because many businesses are going to be online, and there's not going to be any need for that extra capital expenditure of the brick and mortar. And you're already starting to see this now in terms of commercial real estate. If you drive around in your neighborhood or your city, you'll see that there are lots of empty buildings. And unfortunately, I don't think this is the end of it. So they will probably eventually be repurposed to something, but we're not there yet. This is a long cycle that's going to take a while to evolve. And the last thing I want to talk about is the rise in collective consciousness. Now, many people have reported to me the increased activity that they're having in their dreams. And I'm hearing it from many people. I'm reading about it online. I just saw an article the other day about this kind of activity in children's dreams. There's something happening. And one thing that I can tell you is that trauma leads to transformation. Trauma leads to spiritual transformation. And what's happening right now? We're having a collective trauma that's affecting the whole world. It's not just one or two of us. It's not like an NDE that's selective and picks people here and there. This is affecting everyone. And I think a related after effect is that there's going to be a rise in consciousness worldwide, which will coincide with this increased emphasis on humanity. I believe that a lot of this, if not all of it, is related to the universe and what they expect from us and what they want from us. I believe in free will, and I think we all have, I know we all have free will, but we have much less control than we think, and the universe has a lot of control. And it feels like this pandemic that's changed so many things has kickstarted the beginning of a massive change. And part of that change is also the rise in collective consciousness, which we're now going to see unfolding, probably beginning more later this year and in 2021 and going forward from that. How that affects us, we don't know yet, but it should be a positive. I mean, because my experience, obviously, working with people who have enhanced consciousness, they want to do good. They want to help others. They want peace on our earth. And they feel that they're batteries of light here to light our earth. And that would be, of course, the best possible outcome, if we have a rise in collective consciousness and people feel the need to repair our earth and our institutions. That is something that we can all hope and pray for. And in the best possible case, that's what we'll have. But if you're having, if you feel that you're having these types of dreams and you feel as if things are a little bit different, you may be experiencing this shift in consciousness. It doesn't happen all at once. It takes time for it to unfold, years actually, but it's incremental, and it may just be starting now. So in summary, this is a very busy year in things that are unseen in many cases, just like the virus is unseen. It's invisible, but we know it's out there, and these changes are also invisible, but we know that they're there and they're coming. So I'm happy to share this set of 2020 predictions and outlook with you, and there'll be more to come. Make sure if you enjoyed this video that you subscribe and leave your comments. Thank you.